Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Royal Blue podcast. We are streaming live on the Echoes Everton FC Facebook page and the Echoes Everton FC YouTube channel. My name is Ian Croll, and it's match day, and I'm joined by Connor O'Neill, Echo Sports reporter. Connor, Goodison Park, under the lights tonight. We're going to do a build-up countdown to kick-off. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I think it's one of excitement, isn't it? I think Goodison under the lights is something that we've come to love and come to really appreciate, and something that we've got to treasure, because obviously we all know that Goodison under the floodlights might not last for much longer. So yeah, one of excitement, looking forward to getting back to Goodison. Obviously put the demons of Manchester United to bed. Obviously that was a disappointing result. But yeah, I think tonight's a good chance for Everton to kick on now and build on Saturday's win over Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we do get going, Connor, I just want to make sure that you're fully recovered now from your sports night out. No hangover anymore.
No. Thankfully, I was on a nice lie in yesterday. I was on a late shift last night for the Liverpool game, so good night's sleep, and plenty of water and fluids and all back to normal now.
Oh well, it's all right for some, isn't it? Well, for those listening, for those watching on YouTube and Facebook, please submit your questions and get them in. Any questions about team news, any questions about the game, just anything, questions about Everton related, just get them in, and I'll put them to Connor, and we'll try and answer them for you. So, Connor, how are you feeling about tonight's game? State of play basically is that if Everton win tonight, we will be out of the relegation zone, and that is, a massive incentive for us to go and get all 3 points tonight.
Yeah, I think psychologically that'd be huge, wouldn't it? I think obviously when we fell into the relegation zone for no fault of the players or Sean Dyche, there was always that thing of, well, the first chance they can do to get out will be massive, and obviously tonight is the chance. Obviously Manchester United was seen as a chance, wasn't it, as well, to get out of the relegation zone the first time back, and it didn't quite happen. So hopefully tonight we can get out the relegation zone, and psychologically I think as well, going into a tough December, that'd be huge, because I think it'll ultimately help the players understand that it's not all them against the world, and quite frankly they've got enough to be nowhere near fighting relegation this time around after 2 consecutive battles to avoid the drop.
So, looking at the form table for both teams, it's a very strange one, and you can't really predict how tonight is going to go. Certainly, Newcastle's away form is really poor. Everton's home form is really poor. Just looking at the numbers there, Newcastle have won 1 away in 6, and Everton have won 1 in 6 at home. So, you literally just couldn't quite. I'm sure we'll do predictions towards the end of the podcast, but you literally couldn't pick this one at this moment in time.
No, and I think that's what makes tonight so interesting, isn't it? Because it almost feels like one team is going to have to put their struggles to bed a little bit, because obviously Newcastle have struggled not only on the road, but obviously with the exception of last season's 4-1 win, they've also struggled to Goodison in recent years as well. So obviously that's a factor, but obviously, like we say, Everton this season have really struggled at home, and they haven't quite been able to replicate the performances we see on the road at Goodison. So I think tonight will be interesting, because one of them kind of tags is going to have to go, and you would like to hope and think that it'll be Everton will find a way to finally win at Goodison, because home form is going to be crucial moving forward. I mean, we speak at length about that. We've been speaking about it for a while now, but it does feel like home form is going to be crucial in terms of how Everton can avoid the drop, how Everton can get back into a position where they're not nervous looking over their shoulder. And when you think of the points they've already lost at home this season, you've got Fulham, Wolves, Luton, that's 3 teams who, to start the season, who've been banking on Everton to get at least 7 points from. They got none. So that makes tonight's games and the home games to come against like Chelsea and Liverpool and stuff like that even bigger. So they've got to start finding a way, I think, and a bit of a blueprint of how to play at home, get at teams, and ultimately find a way scoring goals.
Well, we've alluded to in the past that Everton seem to be better suited playing away from home, which is crazy when you think about Everton's away form, certainly over the past couple of seasons, under different managers, of course. There was times where we literally just couldn't pick up an away win, and it was our home form that kind of got us over the line. There was 1 or 2 away wins, in the relegation battles, certainly against Leicester and a couple of others that and Brighton as well, that got us over the line as well. But Dyche has kind of taken that on in the away sense, but we literally can't rely on the away form. We've literally got to start picking up points now in the home form, because we know, the advantage is there for the home teams at the end of the day.
Yeah, of course, and every club who have in a relegation battle will be looking at their home form and thinking it's crucial that we pick up points at home. So everyone got the same mentality as ultimately their relegation rivals as things stand. So I think the big thing for me is that they need to find a way how to play at home. I don't think they quite mastered that. I think they've been a little bit caught in between of, do they take the game to teams, do they try and attack teams, do they get at teams, do they be a little bit more reserved like we see away from home? Because I think away from home, they become a bit of a master at like eyeing teams up, eyeing things out, and then taking the game to the opposition. So I think at home they feel that pressure a little bit more to take the game to the team more and be a little bit more attacking mind and a little bit more on the front foot. But I think it'd be interesting. Sean Dyche ultimately got to come up with a blueprint of how to play at home, I think, more than anything. And hopefully you'd like to think that tonight will be the start of some sort of blueprint moving forward, and Everton will find a way in which they look defensively strong, but also are capable of scoring goals at the same time.
Sorry, Con, I think I lost you there, but I think we are back. Are you there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, no problem. So I think, the one thing that Dyche tried to comment on more so in his press conference yesterday when he was asked was obviously, it's a cliche, and, it's the importance of scoring goals, because at the end of the day, goals win your games. But it's not as if Everton have been, don't get me wrong, there have been poor performances at home this season, but for the majority and large part, we've played well in majority of the games, and we've created a lot of chances. You've got to just look at, I'm going to name one, obviously, early days of the season, first game of the season, Fulham, the amount of chances that we created, we should have won that game. That should have been a three-pointer for Everton. But there's been a number of home matches this season where we haven't played bad, we've played well, and we shouldn't win. We just haven't put the ball in the back of the net. But obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin has been back this season, and he's helped with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we showed quite quick, didn't we, when Calvert-Lewin returns, how crucial it is to how good Everton can be, ultimately. And I think, it's long been one of them things with Calvert-Lewin as well, where from the outside, people have always kind of questioned his importance for Everton and being a little bit kind of like, well, you can't always look at one player, and you can't pinpoint everything on one player. But I think we've seen in the game since he come back just how important he is in terms of that leading the line, that being that focal point, scoring goals. Obviously, when you think of Everton's struggles in recent seasons, it's been that they haven't been able to score goals and have that focal point up top, and he fixes both of them problems. So I think he is crucial, and I think even you talked there about the games to start season. Even Manchester United, in the last home game, okay, they were beaten 3-0 and the second half was pretty abject. But for that last 20 minutes of the first half, they could have easily gone in ahead comfortably. They missed 4 or 5 really good chances. So for me, I think Calvert-Lewin is crucial to how Everton play. I think on the whole, and I think Bettel, I think he's done okay on Saturday at Forest. I think there's still a lot of work to be done now. And I think when you look at him and you compare it to Calvert-Lewin, the worlds apart, and that's why Calvert-Lewin is so crucial, I think, to how Everton want to play. And ultimately at the start of the season, you can't help but think if they'd had him against the likes of Fulham, Wolves, then it might have been a different story, and they'd have been able to pick up points, but they didn't. And it's about them now really and bouncing back and finding a way now ultimately to start picking up points at home to get themselves in a comfortable position in the table.
Let's stick with Calvert-Lewin then. He's going to be back for tonight's game. According to Sean Dyche, he's missed the past. Well, he missed Forest, and he was taken off against United as a precaution, wasn't he? So he is set to make a return, or at the very least, he's going to be in the squad. How big is that for us tonight?
Oh, it's huge, isn't it? I mean, like I say there, a lot's always been made about his importance, and people have been quick to point to say like, well, he's not that good, from the outside. But Evertonians know how good Calvert-Lewin is and how crucial he is to how Everton being a better team with him in it. And I think it's a huge boost for tonight. And obviously, how we do like our own predictive lineups, who we will go for. And I would understand people might err on the side of caution. Sean Dyche could err on the side of caution as well and put him on the bench because there is more games to come and they're going to come thick and fast in the next few weeks. But for me, I'll be putting them straight back in. I think if Everton could get 60, 70 minutes out of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, a fit and fire Dominic Calvert-Lewin, it'll make all the difference. And, it'll really test the Newcastle backline. That's, kind of been decimated a little bit by injuries. Well, Newcastle side has been decimated by injuries. And I just think he makes all the difference. And I think, for me, he's got to go straight back in tonight if he is fit and available because he could be that difference. And, if Everton get one chance, you'll back Dominic Calvert-Lewin to take it. With Beto, I don't think we're quite in that position yet where you will back him to take that one chance if it come. And I just think Everton, the position that they find themselves in, need to get their best players on the pitches as often as they can. And if Calvert-Lewin's back fit and available tonight, he's got to go straight back in for me.
Beto to be left frustrated then, not from your point of view, but maybe difficult to do, but from his point of view, feeling a little bit hard done by from coming in against Forest, doing an okay job, not amazing, but obviously Calvert-Lewin straight back in the team.
Yeah, I mean, it will be. It's harsh, isn't it, on Beto, and I think in an ideal world you probably would give him another chance tonight. But I just think the position that Everton ultimately find themselves in, they're in the relegation zone. I wouldn't tonight take them out the relegation zone, put a little bit of breathing space between them and clubs like Sheffield United. Unfortunately, there's no time for sentiment. It's the position that Everton find themselves in, and as much as it would be nice to see, Beto given an extended run to the team and given a chance to maybe get on that goal trail and start to prove himself. I just don't think that time is now. And I think Everton, like I said, got to get their best players on the pitch as often as they can. And for me, that means Dominic Calvert-Lewin should come straight back in tonight. I'm not too sure he will. I think Sean Dyche might err on the side of caution. I think, we've got Chelsea this weekend, Burnley next weekend, and a League Cup quarter-final at home to Fulham and Tottenham before Christmas, then it's City and Wolves before New Year. And, you might look at the fixture list and think, there's no point risking him for the sake of one game. But if it was me, I would just get him back out there because I think, Everton are, like we say, a far better side with Dominic Calvert-Lewin leading the line. And I think, I just think tonight as well, psychologically, if they can win and get out that bottom three, they give everyone a huge boost. And they also build on Saturday's win at Forest. So I think while it would be harsh on Beto, unfortunately, there's no room for sentiments in football. And it's just a ruthless decision I think Sean Dyche has got to make.
Yeah, I mean, just sticking with that before we move on, you could look at it either way, couldn't you? Because the fact now that we've got two, top strikers available, Calvert-Lewin back and Beto, obviously still in the mix. He's having, if Beto was to start and having Calvert-Lewin on the bench as a super sub type scenario, that's a psychological boost as well because we haven't had that in the past. So if Beto can do all the running for a good 60, 70 minutes and it was 0-0, it's just shouting out and perfect for Calvert-Lewin to come on as a super sub.
Yeah, I do get that. I understand that. And I think that's something that we will probably not be used to if that was to be a case. Obviously, there's been times where you look at the bench and think, there's not much there that's going to come on and be able to impact the game. So I think that will be a nice rare luxury for Sean Dyche. But I just think from the offset, Everton have got to go with their best team, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin is in their best team. And I think for me, it would be naive on Sean Dyche's part if he didn't start Dominic Calvert-Lewin if he was fit. So I think it would be good if it'd be a nice luxury for Sean Dyche to have a good turn to Dominic Calvert-Lewin after maybe an hour and bring them on with 30 minutes to go when perhaps things are tired and things open up a little bit. But I've always just been a big believer, you start with your best team, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin is certainly in Everton's best team.
And just one more injury note to make. Dyche was talking about Onana in the press conference yesterday. He was a little bit coy. He didn't want to confirm either way, but it's probably likely that he's going to miss out as well.
Yeah, I think this one's a strange one because I think it seemed pretty nothing at the time. And I think when he went initially with Belgium, they were perhaps downplaying the suggestion of how bad it was. But it seems that this knock is something that they don't want to take a chance on. And I think you've got to understand that like I say, with the fixtures to come and what the challenges ahead this month into before we get into the new year. Sean Dyche needs a full fit 5 squad, and why would he gamble on Amadou Onana if he's not quite 100% fit? And I think as well, when it comes to injuries and managing players and managing them back to full fitness, I think you've got to look at how Sean Dyche managed Dominic Calvert-Lewin last season to the start of this one, in the sense of there was a lot of questions being asked, asked to Sean Dyche, and why wasn't he putting Calvert-Lewin in? Was he back fit? There was a lot of talk around Dominic Calvert-Lewin and his injuries, but yet the way Sean Dyche managed him, it was pretty perfect, really. And when he come back, he was a full fit firing Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and one that we hadn't seen for a long time, and one that in that period where we had some good results in terms of Brentford away, Bournemouth at home, Burnley at home in the League Cup, Dominic Calvert, Aston Villa away in the League Cup. Dominic Calvert-Lewin was at the forefront of a lot of them good performances, and either scored or assisted and played a key role in each victory. So I think now you look at Sean Dyche and how he's perhaps going to manage Amadou Onana back to full fitness, and you've got to trust Sean Dyche. You've got to give him, you've basically got to go along with what he thinks, because history shows that when it comes to doing the same with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, he's done it to an absolute T, and Everton reap the benefits. And you've got to hope that again now there might be an issue where Amadou Onana might be 80% fit for all we know, and could be sitting there saying, well, I think I can play. But Sean Dyche should probably sitting there thinking, oh no, I want it to be 100% fit and firing, and that's when we're going to see Amadou Onana back in the team, not an 80% fit Amadou Onana, who then might pull up or might suffer a relapse while he's playing, and we could then lose him for a lot longer. I think it's about short-term suffering for a long-term game almost. And I think you've got to trust Sean Dyche with this injury process, because, like we say, we've seen with Dominic Calvert-Lewin that he is a man who knows what he's doing, and what he done with Calvert-Lewin went to perfection. You've got to hope that it's the same sort of plan now with Amadou Onana.
Yeah, and it does seem to be working, doesn't it, Conor? You can't. It obviously is frustrating when you see players, 80-90% fit, and most of the time that's what players are playing at, within the peak performance. But if Dyche, thinks that's the correct process, then who are we to say otherwise? I mean, this game, Conor, it's no normal game. There's plenty of subplots.
Yeah.
When it comes to Everton and Newcastle, the first one, we'll see a return to Goodison Park of Anthony Gordon. I know he's been back previously, but he's definitely got a lot of baggage probably still in and around Goodison Park. Scouse lad, and left in the circumstances that he left in, didn't leave a great taste in Everton fans' mouths. So that's, and let's face it, he's in good form. So it's going to be an interesting one tonight, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real interesting one, Anthony Gordon, isn't it? Because it kind of felt when he left last season, there was a lot of question marks around the move. I know we spoke about this in the week, didn't we? But like around the move and the transfer, and a lot of people kind of saying, Everton have done unbelievably well to get the money that they did for him, because people were just not seeing what maybe perhaps other people saw. And then you think, when you think as well, when he come back to Goodison last season, he was actually on the bench. He couldn't get a game for Newcastle at that time. He was on the bench. He was a bit of a squad player who'd been struggling. I don't think the Newcastle fans were quite impressed with what they'd seen. And yet, you fast forward that to now, and he comes to Goodison tonight. He's probably one of the most informed players in the Premier League, if we're being honest. And quite interesting. I saw Jamie Carragher at the weekend. They saying if he goes on the same form he's showing at the minute, then he's going to put himself in serious contention to go to the Euros, next summer. So that shows, I think, the transformation that he's had personally to where he is now from where he was the last time we come back to Goodison. But yeah, I think like we've seen before, like Ross Barkley and people like that, Everton fans don't forget, and they certainly don't forgive. And I think the way he left a very sour taste, I think, in a lot of the minds of Evertonians. And I think while ultimately, like I said this earlier on this week, it was a deal that ultimately suited all parties in the end, because Everton were able to recoup a large transfer fee, and Gordon got his wish to leave the club. I still think there's a few chapters of that transfer tale that will come out in time to come that may paint things a little bit differently to what we're led to believe now. But ultimately, the cold hard facts are he didn't train when he should have been training, and he submits the formal transfer request to leave the club, which is, a sin in itself, isn't it, when you're pushing that hard to leave the football club. So, yeah, I think very much it'll be a hostile atmosphere for Anthony Gordon tonight. And of course, there's no love lost between Everton supporters and Newcastle supporters, as we've seen in recent years on social media.
I mean, he's not had his own way, Gordon, since he's gone to Newcastle. The big money move, obviously, with that transfer valuation, comes a lot of pressure. Chris Beasley, Sports Reporter yesterday, spoke to a Newcastle journalist, Andrew Musgrove, and he was talking about how Gordon didn't necessarily fall out with Howe, but there's been a few little incidents and stuff like that. But he's obviously, he's in form, playing very well. Did you foresee, this upturn in form after last season, and did you foresee the upturn in his Newcastle career once he'd left Everton, or did you foresee, is he going to be a Jack Rodwell, a Francis Jeffers type player that kind of just maybe goes to a club for a big fee and then the career kind of dwindles out?
I mean, I must admit and confess, I was a long big Anthony Gordon fan. I was fortunate enough to watch him when he was 16, playing Everton youth team for under all I used to do before I went to the Liverpool Echo, and I saw him kind of come through and blossom. And there was always something about him. There was always something when you watched him and you thought, like, God, that lad's got talent. And, when he was a youngster playing in the Everton kind of under 18 academy system, he was always one of them players you watched and thought he could do something out of nothing. He was that type of player. He was more of a kind of number 10 back then as well. He wasn't such a winger. He was more of a number 10. But there was that point, I think, last year when he left Everton where you thought, has he kind of peaked here? Has he kind of maybe hit the level, hit the glass ceiling that he was meant to hit, and he's never quite going to make that leap over? And I think, to be fair, when he went to Newcastle, you actually started to believe in that more, because he struggled massively at Newcastle. Towards the end of last season, he was in and out. He couldn't really, lay down a place. And then I watched a little bit of him at the under-21 tournament in the summer, which England ended up winning, obviously, under the former Everton midfielder Lee Carsley. And he got played at the tournament, and he looked superb. He was showing flashes there of what I saw of him when he was a kid, in the Everton youth system, and ability to do nothing, a little bit of rawness, that just that bit of arrogance, but arrogance in the good way of, doing something that, he knows that other people perhaps on the pitch can't do. And obviously he's just took that form from last summer into this season, and he's been absolutely, superb, and probably been Newcastle's best player, I think, if we're being honest. And I think the thing about Anthony Gordon is he's someone who doesn't lack confidence. I think we see this sometimes in football where confidence can be mistaken for arrogance, and people can kind of look at someone and judge them based on that confidence and the fact of, if only this lad had the talent that his confidence suggests it does, and stuff like that. And I think perhaps that's been one of Gordon's problems in recent years, is that maybe his confidence has been foreseen as arrogance, and people have not quite seen the talent that they think he thinks he has. But yeah, he's someone I always thought was a very good player, and someone who had a lot of ability. And someone I actually thought when he was at Everton, he may have moved into that number 10 role a little bit, playing off the centre forward and look to be the creativity. Obviously, he's gone away and firmly established himself as a wide player now, and he's not just a wide player who assists, he's also scoring goals this season. So, yeah, he's always someone who, obviously, when you watch someone from young and you see them develop and you see them grow, you have that little bit more of an interest in. So he's always someone I thought I had high hope for, but I think he's surpassed so far this season what I thought he was capable of after the way his kind of Everton career ended.
I mean, in his Everton career, we were never really in a good position, where we were always, down the bottom of the table, and with that comes huge pressure, certainly at Everton Football Club. So as a player, a young player trying to learn his trade still and develop, did we, as a club, I'm not necessarily pinpointing anyone, but when I say as a club, I mean the coaching staff, the managers at the time, the fan base, maybe even players around them, did we heap too much pressure on a young Anthony Gordon to get us out of the mess on the pitch that we were in at the time?
Well, I think it's double-edged. There's two answers to that question, isn't it? Because I think on one hand, when you talk about managers there, he's had a lot of managers during his Everton career. I think it was Marco Silva when he kind of was first emerging on the scene a little bit. Obviously, then Carlo Ancelotti comes in, gives him his debut. But then, you think of the second season, Carlo's only full season at Everton. Gordon goes and joins Blackburn on loan in that January. So he kind of found himself on the fringes. Then obviously he comes back, does well under Rafa. Then obviously Frank Lampard comes in. That's when I think, you see the real Gordon kind of flourishing. You think of how well he performed in that period where, under Frank Lampard, Everton back on the state, you think of the goal against Manchester United, the performance against like Newcastle and teams like that, where he was superb, he was full of energy. And I always remember, my colleague at the Echo, Chris Beasley, was fortunate to speak to him in that run when Everton stayed up under Frank Lampard. It was part of a kind of Sunday newspaper roundtable interview. I remember Chris telling me that, like, basically, one of the Sunday reporters basically asked Gordon, do you think Everton have got enough to stay up? Do you think do you think they've got enough to stay up? And I remember, Chris saying, like, Gordon just basically shot back straight away. I was like, we won't go down. Like, we're not going down. Like, me and the lads, we're not going down. We're not going to be on the wrong side of history. And he was so firm and kind of his answer and his belief that Everton weren't going to go down. And I think his performance was reflected down the Lampard, that belief and that bit of grit between the teeth of, like, we might be in this position, but I'm going to help drag us over the line. And he ultimately did help drag Everton over the line. And then I think, you think of the, last season under Frank Lampard when things were going wrong, and perhaps too much pressure was put on him. Perhaps there was a little bit looking at him thinking, you should be doing more, you should be stepping up. And obviously, I don't think it helped he did that, that summer when Tottenham first showed an interest in him and were linked with him and were interested in taking him. And obviously, once speculation starts to grow around the future, and then Chelsea and Newcastle emerged as choosers towards the end of the window, and there was a time where it looked like it was touch and go whether he'd actually stay. And I just don't think that helps, because fans then start to question the commitments and stuff like that. And deep down, he probably didn't want all that speculation around him. He probably just wants to play football. And all of a sudden the off-field noise takes over the on-field noise, and I think that's when things start to unravel a little bit. And obviously that coincides with Everton's different form, but I think you can't forget the role he did play when Everton stayed up under Frank Lampard, because he was crucial, and some of his performances were absolutely superb.
Okay, then moving on, Connor, to Eddie Howe, Sean Dyche's counterpart, who's going to be in the dugout tonight. In the past, he's been touted as an Everton manager. Maybe something that's not going to happen now in the future. But how do you assess Howe's time as a manager at Newcastle United?
Yeah, it's a real strange one, isn't it? Because I have to confess that obviously there's been a lot of managerial changes in recent years, and for about 4 years running, Howe was always a name who was linked, and people, would suggest that he'd be a good fit for Everton. He'd be someone who Everton should be looking at. I never quite saw it that way. I never quite saw him as an Everton manager. I'm not saying he's a bad manager, but I just didn't think he was the right fit for Everton. Someone who I kind of didn't really have that kind of thing. Although I'd love us to go and get Eddie Howe. And when he got the Newcastle job, I was quite surprised, to be honest. But yeah, I didn't quite understand the move, because I thought, given the position Newcastle were in at that moment in time, I thought they could look for a much higher profile name. And I must admit, I wasn't sure how long it'd last, but he certainly proved me wrong, because he's done an absolutely superb job. You think of where they were when he took over, fighting relegation. They comfortably went on to finish mid-table. Last season, they finished in the top 4, which is an unbelievable achievement when you look around them and the teams who they're competing against. I know they're obviously run by a state-owned football club, but they certainly don't have the resources and talent to. You look at Newcastle last year compared to Liverpool. Liverpool squad far outweighs Newcastle's, but yeah, Newcastle managed to finish above them. Obviously, they got to a League Cup final. I think they were disappointed how the season kind of nosedived a little bit. I think from that Carabao Cup final onwards, they kind of fell off a bit of a cliff. And I think in the end, if we're being honest, they stumbled across the line to finish in the top 4. I think if the season would have been on a few more weeks, then they'd have certainly been, under massive pressure to finish in the top 4. But I think he's done a really, really good job. I think the challenge for him now is whether he can take them on that next step. So obviously, when you see this season in the Champions League, they've not been great, Newcastle, and there's probably an argument to say that they've been a little bit found out at times. And I think for where Newcastle want to go next, they'll want a manager who can compete in the Champions League and get Newcastle into like the quarterfinals, semi-finals, and stuff like that. So I think it'll be interesting how he evolves and how he adapts in terms of moving forward to being whether he'd be that manager who could take them into, consistently competing for the top 4, possibly one day competing for the title and competing in the latter stages of the Champions League. I think it remains to be seen whether he's that good a manager. But I think the way you look at what he took over and what he inherited to where they are now, he's done an absolutely superb job, and he's certainly someone who's proved me wrong. And probably just shows what I know about football, to be honest with you, because I got it horribly wrong. And a lot of times, right now for Everton, who knows, perhaps he might have been.
Well, Dyche was asked about that in a press conference yesterday, and this comment, I think, is a little bit cheeky, and it's been largely gone largely unnoticed. But he did praise Howe for the job that he'd done throughout his career, and at Newcastle. But he kind of said, well, it does help with the money that he spent at Newcastle as well. So I don't know if you got onto that one yourself, but Newcastle, obviously had a little bit of money to spend. Maybe I'm not saying Dyche is jealous, but what did you make of that comment? If you
he's got every right to be jealous. I think he's got every right to be jealous. To be fair to Sean Dyche, because when you think of Burnley and Everton, he's not spent much money, has he, in the transfer market? If I'm being honest, I think he's had to be very, very stupid with all those signings. And you think, you look at this summer, for instance. Everton managed to get quite a few bodies in towards the end, but I don't think they were splashing the cash, perhaps like other clubs. Well, I certainly don't think Sean Dyche is going to have the war chest that a lot of his predecessors have enjoyed. Is he? I think moving forward, even if 7-7 completely take over the football club. But yeah, I can see his point there. I can see his point because I do think it helps, doesn't it, when you can go out and get good players in and by quality. You think of you think of it, someone like Isaac, for instance, at Newcastle. Newcastle spent 45 million on, and everyone kind of looked at it and was a bit like, wow, that's a real silent statement of intent, because he'd been so good for Sweden in that Euros, and then he'd been so good for Real Sociedad, and was kind of being like this hot prospect. You compare that to Sean Dyche, sort of basically signing Yusuf Shimiti from Sporting Lisbon, a largely unproven Portuguese forward, if being brutally honest, only kind of emerged himself in senior football in the second half of last season. And Sean Dyche basically said himself, in a press conference, he said, someone we've got high hopes for, someone we believe could develop into a great talent. And if we're being honest, if we didn't sign him now, there's a chance that we might not be able to sign him ever again because of the deal that we could get over the line as things stood. So I kind of see where he's coming from in terms of the money argument, because I think if there's one manager who's had to be astute in the transfer markets in recent years, it's Sean Dyche. And I think as well, Sean Dyche must kick himself a little bit, because obviously we saw this season when Burnley come up under Vince Company, they spent, I think it was just over £100 million, which I think, you probably tallied up every transfer that Dyche made during Burnley. He might not even reach £100 million in the 9 years, 10 years that he was there. So I can understand where he's coming from, and I think it's a bit of a baby, perhaps a cheeky comment of what might have been for Sean Dyche. But yeah, I mean, I think what ultimately, and I think I said this a while ago when we were talking about when everything being docked 10 points and stuff like that. And what you see now more than ever is that football's all about recruitment. And if you get your recruitment right, it goes a long way in making sure that things on the pitch are right. And I think you look at Liverpool, for prime example, their success was built because they got their recruitment absolutely spot on in terms of people like Salah, Firmino, Mane. I know Van Dijk and Alisson they paid big money for, but they knew what they were getting with both of them players. You look at Newcastle, like even people like Kieran Trippier, Bruno, Isaac, they've got the recruitment right and they're reaping the benefits. Brighton, another club, you think of the players they've signed in recent seasons, and then even when they've lost the money that they made is just, I think they said Casado cost £4 million, and they go and sell over 115 million, having got, 2 great seasons out of them. Same with Basuma. Recruitment is everything. And I think, while it's great to have a great scouting network, it also helps if you have a checkbook that helps you get good players over the line and players that will instantly be able to come in and improve you, rather than having to buy talent to develop them in the hope that they eventually come good.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, Newcastle probably haven't even been able to spend as near enough as what they wanted to with financial fair play, really, have they? And is it annoying that, they're kind of learning from our mistakes over the past couple of years, because they have been restricted on what they wanted to do, although they have spent money. It's nowhere near as like flamboyant as what we've done over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I think they said that the summer in Newcastle that the transfer plans were a little bit kind of, they were operating with kind of one hand behind the back because of the threat of financial fair play means that they couldn't go out and perhaps, because I think if we're being honest, if Newcastle had an open checkbook and financial fair play didn't exist, they'd gone out and got 2 or 3 real high profile players in during the summer just gone, because they would have looked at it and thought, well, we're in the Champions League, we're just going to the top 4. The challenge now is to make sure that we continue to be in the top 4 and we can compete in the Champions League, and these players are going to be able to come in and help us do that. So I think they would have.
The takeover, is even greater than what a Chelsea or a Manchester City have been in the past, haven't they? So, it was, the money that they've got is just giant.
Yeah, and I think I think they would have gone big, and they would have gone and got real high profile players in, but they couldn't because of financial fair play and the strengths that you've got to work under. And I also think as well, unfortunately, Everton have become that example now of like, if you get money, don't do what they've done. I think, you know, and I think now as well, more than ever, in terms of given that, you know, as things stand, Everton have been docked 10 points. You know, I think there'll be a few clubs who'll be sitting there thinking, oh, we definitely just need to be happy to pull ourselves back in here and make sure that we don't fall foul of being up to 10 points, because if that's the precedent, that's what's being expected moving forward, then I think people will be a little bit more nervy and a little bit more, perhaps, going into transfer windows a little bit more apprehensive of how much they can actually spend. But yeah, I do think that if Newcastle were in a position where they could have an open checkbook, they'd have gone a few more high-profile players in during the summer, because they would have looked at it as an opportunity to really kick on after the good season that they had last year. But that's what financial fair play is there to do, to stop, you know, clubs stockpiling players and ultimately going out there and just buying anyone's best talents because they've got the most money in the world.
Yeah, and just moving on then, Connor, there's always a rivalry, sense of rivalry between opposition and opposition Premier League teams and stuff like that. But what is it with the weird rivalry between Everton and Newcastle? Is it the clubs? Is it the fans? Is it something that's been kind of set on social media? Because I do feel like it's something that's been building for the past couple of years, and can't really quite put my finger on it because there's no apparent reason why there should be some weird rivalry between Newcastle, other than that they maybe have overtaken us in the pecking order of things.
Yeah, I mean, it is a real strange one, isn't it? Because there just seems to be a bit of a neutral hatred from both sides of the fans, and obviously, I think events over recent years perhaps haven't helped in terms of Newcastle portraying themselves to be this big club, and how they deserve so much better because they're a supposed big club, and Everton fans quite rightly putting out that to one club city and stuff like that. And there's a lot of tit for tat back and forth, isn't there? I think is the best way to describe it all. And I actually think in some respects it's a rivalry that's been kind of built upon the social media age of football, and it's fans can just easily have digs at one another on social media, and it escalates from there really.
Is that it though? Is it just because is it that one question who is the bigger club? And more often than not, quite weirdly, anytime I do see that debate, whether it's just on social media or on like a video platform, Newcastle always seems to come out on top, which is just bizarre.
Yeah, I think that's got a lot to do with the attendances, though, hasn't it? And the fan base that they've got.
One club city.
Because it is a one club city, yeah. Yeah, I think it's just a rivalry that's been built on this social media age of football, and I think it gets that bad because the back and forth is that much that then escalates into the ground when the two teams meet. And I think obviously you've seen some as well. I mean, some of the stuff toward the Newcastle fans have done towards Pickford and stuff like that. In recent years, that's obviously been well documented and high profile. So yeah, it is a real strange rivalry because I don't see really why they should have a rivalry with the two clubs, but they do, and I'm sure the next edition of tonight's rivalry will be played out all before our eyes at Goodison Park.
Yeah, absolutely, I'm sure it will. So Jordan Pickford, then he's got a weird relationship with the Newcastle fans. Just talking about rivalries and relationships. He's always been public enemy number one in Newcastle fans' eyes, and we all know why, because of association with Sunderland and where he comes from. I kind of just want to touch on Pickford a little bit because he's obviously Everton's number one, England's number one. But in our podcast yesterday that Chris Beasley did with Newcastle Chronicle journalist Andrew Musgrove, Andrew kind of suggested that Newcastle fans have got under his skin in the past, and I think I actually quite agree with him on that. I think there's been times where Pickford has reacted to things that he shouldn't have reacted, and it's cost him, it's cost us points, it's cost us goals. But Sean Dyche yesterday, or there was an article that we put on our website today saying that he's learning to ignore those type of things, ignore the critics. Do you agree that he has let himself down in the past, certainly when it's come to playing against Newcastle, and is he learning from those mistakes?
Yeah, I mean, I actually do agree. I think he has let get some in the past. But I actually think now we're at the point where he's clearly learned from it, and he's a different character now. I think, and I don't think it's just in the sense of the Newcastle fans, I think he's a different character in terms of how he used to be when he used to get so wound up and stuff like that. And you could see he kind of lose his head a little bit. And he was always then, within doing that, capable of doing something absolutely wild that ultimately could have cost Everton a goal. But I think there was a point where Newcastle fans clearly got under the skin. And I think there's always one game in particular when Everton, I think, were 2-0 up under Marco Silva at St James's Park. I ended up losing 3-2. And Jordan Pickford didn't cover himself in much glory, I think, for Newcastle's last 2 goals that afternoon. And I think that was one of the ones where it kind of become apparent that Jordan Pickford ultimately, has let Newcastle fans get to him. And, he was out to make a point. Obviously, there's no love lost, I think, between the Geordies and the Mackhams, should we say. And obviously Pickford is well and truly in the Mackham camp. So I think there was a point where Newcastle fans clearly were getting under the skin and we'll get to him. But I think now what we see now is just a totally different Jordan Pickford in his character in every way. Because I think, as a goalkeeper, he's vastly improved from a couple of years ago. I think there's a calm influence behind the back four. He's such a different character as well. And I think we saw last season, he was captain. He's one of Everton's leaders, and you don't get the armband if you're that kind of hot-headed character that we perhaps saw him from a few years ago. But I think now he's just a totally different character. He's a lot more relaxed, and ultimately Everton reaping the benefits because for me he's still in the top 3 best Premier League goalkeepers.
Okay, then Connor. So before we move on to predictions and kind of team selection, just a little tidbit on Dele Alli. Sean Dyche has revealed that he's feeling good, and he's kind of detailed a little bit of information on his kind of road back to fitness. It sounds like it's still a long way off, but he's on the grass, he's running, he's doing work. Some way off, obviously, but do you see him playing a part this season, and would you like to see him play a part this season?
Well, I think unfortunately, whether we see Dele Alli play a part or not will depend on if Everton are able to do some sort of deal with Tottenham. They don't have to give them the 10 million quid if he gets to 20 appearances. Because obviously, I wrote a story a few weeks ago to speak to Sean Dyche in one of his pre-match press conferences in which he confirmed that talks were ongoing with Tottenham, or talks have been open, with Tottenham over trying to broker some sort of rearranged deal from the one that was initially agreed when Dele Alli joined the club in January 2022. And I think that will depend much on whether we see Dele Alli moving forward. I think Kevin Felwell is still in talks with the Tottenham hierarchy over that and trying to work out a way. I think it'd be great to see him back on a football pitch. I really do. I think, I think with Dele Alli, you've almost got to look at almost what he's been through personally. I think, and he was really quite open, wasn't he, in the summer when he came out and done that interview with Kai Neville, which was very, very good, in which he, opened up on his struggles and, looked back on a traumatic childhood, should be saying, and was very open. And I think from that perspective, it would be absolutely great if we could see Dele Alli back on a football pitch smiling, because that's where he belongs. And I think, when you forget, don't you, with Dele Alli, that 2018 World Cup, just how good he was. I know he's probably one of the best young players in the world, let alone in the Premier League. Whether he can get back to them heights and that level remains to be seen. I think it's going to be a long process for him to get back to them levels. But I think it would be great to see him back on a football pitch smiling. And it's good that he's taking positive steps moving forward behind the scenes. He's nearly back to full fitness now and joining in with the team and full training, because that's another real positive step for him personally. And yeah, it'd be great to see him back on a football pitch smiling, doing what he loves, and ultimately as well doing what he should be doing, and that's playing football and kicking the ball around. But I do think that whether we see Dele and Everton shirt again will depend on whether the club are able to broker some sort of deal with Tottenham over the £10 million that he will be owed if he makes 7 more appearances.
Okay, then we're going to finish off now, guys. But before we do, Connor, predictions and team selection. First of all, team selection. Any major changes from the Forest win? We obviously know your thoughts on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You want him in that side, but what about Ashley Young? There's been a lot of talk of him dropping out potentially, or people hoping that he drop out for Seamus Coleman or Nathan Patterson. First of all, do you want that to happen, or do you see that happening?
Well, as anyone who reads my team selected piece on the Echo website this afternoon, they would just go like, I have indeed dropped Ashley Young for tonight's match.
Okay, I missed that one. Sorry.
That's okay. You're not the first. But no, I've gone with Nathan Patterson just purely because of Nathan Patterson's pace. And I think Nathan Patterson's pace would ensure that he will be able to deal with Anthony Gordon a lot better than Ashley Young perhaps will be. I think we've seen this season when Ashley Young comes up against someone who's got real pace to burn, he struggled and ultimately, he was sent off the derby because he couldn't cope with Luis Diaz's pace. Was probably quite fortunate not to be sent off against Manchester United, if we're being honest. So yeah, I think, I would like to see Nathan Patterson come in place of Ashley Young at right back. I think it probably may be a little bit too early to throw Seamus Coleman back in. I think if we're being honest, Seamus Coleman's still the best right back Everton have got. But I think it's maybe a little bit too early for him to be thrown back in, and especially going up against someone as in form as Gordon and someone who's got as good a pace as Gordon. So that's one change I'd like to see. Obviously, getting for Calvert-Lewin, is fit enough to start. I'd like to see him given the nod over Beto. But apart from that, I think that the team pretty much picks itself. I think the back three, of Tarkowski, Braithwaite, Mikalenko certainly doesn't need changing, and the midfield five of Dwight McNeil, Jack Harrison, just a guy, James Garner and Abdul Decore certainly doesn't need changing or freshening up because James Garner I thought was superb on Saturday, probably his best performance for Everton so far this season. So yeah, I certainly wouldn't be making wholesale changes, but yeah, the two I would like to see would be Nathan Patterson coming for Ashley Young and Dominic Calvert-Lewin coming for Beto. But I certainly wouldn't have any complaints either if Sean Dyche opted to play Seamus Coleman because, like I say, I think we can all agree that Seamus Coleman is still Everton's best right back at the football club. I just have concerns whether it might be a little bit too early for him in terms of where he's been, in terms of his recovery to get back to where he is now, to go straight in up against someone as in form as Anthony Gordon. But I just think if Young starts at right back, it could be a nice little struggle for him and one in which he, ultimately pays the price. And I just think it'd be history repeating itself for all the wrong reasons. So I would like to see a change at right back. Yeah. What about yourself?
Yeah, I don't disagree, to be honest. I think with regards to Calvert-Lewin, I think if he's fit, he goes in, and I think it works either way, doesn't it? If Beto's on the bench and it's not working, then we can bring Beto on, as a potential option as a substitute. I think Ashley Young has been very much up and down over the past couple of weeks. Sean Dyche obviously likes him, that's why he's in there. But I think I mentioned in one of the live pods earlier in the week, it's no secret that he just gets booked all the time, and he's just on that knife edge of being sent off. And I do think it comes down to the longevity that he's had in the game. He's just obviously a little bit off that pace, but Dyche trusts him. He is the weak link within that side, within the defence. So it's, if he carries on the way it's going, it's surely only a matter of time before Patterson gets his chance. Coleman's back before Coleman gets his chance. So we'll see what happens. My predictions, though, Connor, I'll go with mine first. It's obviously going to be a draw because the past Newcastle away games, we've won 1 in 6. The past Everton home games, we've won 1 in 6. So that is my prediction. It's going to be, I don't want it to be a draw. Obviously, I want us to win, but it's going to be, 1-1 draw. That's my prediction. So you heard it here first. But what are you going to be more positive than me?
Well, for the sake of all watching and listening, I am going to be more positive. Yeah, I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Everton. I think tonight will be the night. Right. Goodison firmly comes alive, and I'm sure we'll hear plenty of anti-Premier League messages before, during, and after the game. There's plans in the park, and isn't there, I think, to hold green cards up tonight as the teams go out during the Premier League anthem. So, I just think it'll be one of them nights tonight where it'll be Goodison will come alive and stuff. So I'd like to think, Newcastle got a few injuries. They're playing well, but I think Everton could really get at them. And I think if they make a good, positive, strong start, then there's no reason why Everton can't pick up 3 points tonight. And I think it'll be one of them, perhaps special, probably too strong a word to use in terms of the Goodison nights that we've seen. But certainly, I think, one of them nights where Goodison might start rocking a little bit, because I think everyone's right up for these home games, aren't they? Given what's going on off the pitch and the 10-point deduction, stuff like that. And yeah, I just think it's going to be one of them nights tonight where Everton will find a way of getting over the line. And come 10 o'clock, we'll all be looking at the league table and Everton will be out the relegation zone and it'll be onwards and upwards. I mean, that's a very positive prediction, I have to say. So if it goes all wrong, people can come to me and complain. So
no, I mean that's what we want. I'm just a cynic by nature, Connor. So it's absolutely fine. But
you know, it is, to be honest, for too long. So
well, exactly. We're all cut from the same cloth, aren't we?
Yeah, unfortunately, in some respects.
Well, it is Goodison Park under the lights, 7:30. Connor, you're going there in a professional capacity tonight. I'm going there as a fan. Lower Gladys Street is my seat. You're going to be in the media box, aren't you, working away?
Yes, myself, Chris Beasley and Joe Thomas will all be Goodison to bring you everything that happens before, during and afterwards. Sure, it's going to be an action-filled night. And if I was to give any tips or advice to anyone going to Goodison Park tonight, I would say wrap up warm because it will be cold.
Yeah, as long as I don't mind being cold, as long as it doesn't rain, which I don't know what the forecast is, but I just can't stand the rain when I'm walking to and from the game. So yeah, there's my little personal thing for the game anyway. So yeah, plenty of coverage and reaction to tonight's game on the Echo website and social channels before, after, and tomorrow. Connor, thank you for joining. It's been a pleasure as always. Thanks for watching and listening, those on the Royal Blue YouTube channel and the Echoes Everton FC Facebook page. This has been the Royal Blue Podcast.